And I'd never seen hardly any black people in Scranton at the time and I was only going in 4th grade. And I remember seeing the kids going by at the time called colored kids on a bus going by.
Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Oh my gosh. Joe Biden returns to the scene, his first speech since leaving office. And it's not gotten any better for him, clearly. Oopsies. Stephen, would you pay Joe Biden any amount of money to come speak at your event?
I mean, no, I don't think so.
I don't understand why are people paying this man who has no idea what's going on, real money, just to come up and talk about, are we allowed to even say that? I feel the C word I feel like we get in trouble.
Well, hold on. What C word? You're going to need to be more specific. Well, maybe it's I actually would pay for him to come speak and then just make fun of it.
Okay, well, that's fair. But
maybe
this was not, like that. This was unironically. This was like,
how do you know?
Well, that's fair. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. You have me questioning all of my opinions on this, but you have them paying Joe Biden real money to go out there and say things like that. I just don't get it. But the entire Democrat Party is completely and totally screwed, which is why you have people like this bozo Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen. He did this big production about how he was like, I'm going to go to El Salvador myself and I'm going to ask to speak to the president and I'm going to take this illegal MS-13 gang member home with me because he belongs here in America where we embrace gang members. And so he actually took the trip. He landed in El Salvador earlier today to tour this CCOT prison where, of course, President Bukele holds, we're talking like the worst of the worst, which includes MS-13, which includes Tren de Aragua, okay? It includes all of those people because they are the worst of the worst violent criminals. And I want to play this bozo. God, these Democrats are so embarrassing. This bozo just landing in El Salvador. He's really going to teach us all a lesson. Watch.
I just landed at the airport in San Salvador a little while ago. I'm now en route into the city, looking forward to meeting with the team from the American Embassy. And I do want to thank our Foreign Service officers and the whole team at this embassy and embassies around the world for all the good work they do on behalf of our country. I'm proud to co-chair the bipartisan Foreign Service Caucus that stands up for the men and women who are serving our country overseas and at home in the State Department. After that, I hope to meet with some high-level government officials from El Salvador. As I've said before, the goal of my visit is to talk to people here about the release of Kilmar Armando Garcia. I told his wife and his family I would do everything possible to bring him home. And we're going to keep working at this until we're successful. I also hope to have the chance to meet with him, but we'll have a better idea if that works out a little later on.
Literally, you have the Democrats we are just full on embracing bringing illegal gang members back to this country. That's their messaging. That's their campaign strategy going into the midterms. Please, for the love of God, keep doing it. And so he's like, I'm just going to show up and I'm just going to ask for a meeting with the president. And that didn't go well for him. Yeah, it didn't go well. And later he gave a press conference explaining that the Trump administration, you guys are going to be shocked to hear this, the Trump administration did not authorize a meeting with El Salvador's president, Bukele, and so this bozo was denied. Watch.
This is an unsustainable and unjust moment. It cannot continue this way. I also told his wife and family that I would try to meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia while I was here.
Oh no, and you weren't allowed in this prison?
So I asked the vice president if I could meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia. And he said, well, you need to make earlier provisions to go visit CCOT.
Oh my. Oh, real? No, do you think? Really? One of the prisons that houses the most heinous criminals in the entire world? You have to make outside arrangements. You have to make prior arrangements. You can't just be like, I'm getting on a plane and I'm showing up and they're going to let me because I'm a Maryland state senator, by God. These people are so retarded. They are going all in on just championing illegal criminals. And so you watch this, and you watch, by the way, the House Democrats, Cory Booker, who, oh man, if you see Cory Booker on a plane heading your way, I'm sure Nayib Bukele is like just shaking in his boots that Cory Booker might be headed his way to try to go advocate for the return of a deported illegal with MS-13 ties. So you've got all of these House Democrats that are threatening to come as well. And then you start wondering, is this legal? I don't think so. Because when you look at the Logan Act, this is, of course, not used very often, but it actually, when you look at it, it prevents Americans, including members of Congress, from engaging in foreign diplomatic negotiations without explicit permission from the head honcho, our president, Donald J. Trump. And this is a man who, despite the Democrats' attempts to paint him as some Maryland father, he is a foreign national. He is from El Salvador, where we have returned him to. You're welcome. Okay? He is a native of El Salvador who never received legal status. He was found ineligible for relief, and his deportation followed the legal process. And so you look at this and you're like, it seems to me like this is a violation of the Logan Act, that they are coming over there and trying to negotiate on behalf of America, try to bring this man home. That man said home. Sir, his home is in El Salvador, where he belongs. We returned him home. And you know, Donald Trump didn't even get a thank you for that. And I think that that's just rude. And so it's not just these idiots in the Senate, the state Senate, or, Congress, whoever it may be. It's not just these idiots. It's also this illegal gang member's wife. Because remember, Maryland father, poor Maryland father, just got deported over some administrative error, as if he's just some, native born, I don't know, like they're acting as if he's just some white-skinned, blue-eyed, random Maryland father who just got deported to El Salvador, he's in the tank with all the people with brown skin, right? And so now you have this man's wife who has come out publicly crying about her husband being gone. What am I going to tell our children about my illegal gang member husband being gone? Watch.
Today is 34 days after his disappearance, and I stand before you filled with spirit that refuses to bring down. I will not stop fighting until I see my husband alive. Kilmar, if you can hear me, stay strong.
You can hear me. Is he deaf
God
now?
hasn't forgotten about you. Our children
I'm not
are
sure that they get
asking,
TV time in CCOT.
when would you come home?
I don't think they have cable.
And I pray for the day I tell them the time and date that you'll return.
God, he has returned home. This is such a thankless society these days, Stephen. You can't even, he got a free trip back to his home country, and he gets free shelter in his home country, and they haven't even said thank you once to President Trump.
Yeah, how much is that? Look at it up right now. How much does it cost to fly to El Salvador?
I should look that up. I don't know.
We paid for that, so.
We paid for that, and they didn't even say thank you. Not even a thank you. And I hear El Salvador is really nice this time of year.
Yeah. Tropical climate, Oh, I don't know how nice it is in the prison, but.
Well, listen, I'm not a gang member, so I wouldn't know, okay?
Sure.
But so she's this woman, they launched this Give, Send, Go campaign. And so they've made, at least as of the time of this taping, it keeps going up. As of the time of this taping, it was like $177,000 from a Give, Send, Go campaign to, it said, support Kilmar Abrego Garcia's family. Oh no, this poor Maryland father, he's such a family man. You saw his wife crying about him being gone. It's been 34 whole days that he's gone, and he never did anything to deserve this, according to his wife. Oh, oops, except DHS spilled the beans on social media, and according to court documents, his wife previously applied for a protective order, accusing him of punching, scratching, grabbing her, ripping off her shirt, and bruising her. What a nice guy. He's just a Maryland family man. He's just a father, right? Oh, except he's an illegal criminal and now a wife beater. And this is the person that Democrats are going all in on. This is the person that Democrats are like, yes, we want this man back in this country. And, Stephen, do you think that that's going to go well for them?
I mean, I guess I don't. I don't know what else they can do, though. I mean, they just latch onto this.
Well,
it's comical. Like, they really care about the average person in the Rust Belt who's lost their job,
right? Whatever.
But no, this guy that again, where did he come from, Sarah? They keep calling him from Maryland.
El Salvador.
Okay.
El Salvador. He's from there. We returned him home.
He was an asylum seeker, right? He entered legally into the country and had a visa.
No, none of those things happened. He was not legally here. No. Next question.
That's all. I'm not trying to justify it. I have no idea what they're thinking.
So you have in the state of Maryland, someone did a search for this bozo Maryland senator. I've already forgotten his name, Dodo Brain, and they searched for him making any social media posts about Rachel Morin, who was from Maryland and was killed by an illegal. And he did not have that same energy when talking about Rachel Morin killed by an illegal. You are going to be shocked to hear this, Stephen. He posted about that on X 0 times. 0 freaking times, okay? This illegal, Victor Martinez Hernandez, 24 years old, was carrying out a planned attack when he grabbed her off of a trail she was running on, bashed her head against nearby rocks, raped her, and concealed her body in a drainage culvert. And somehow, Van Retard, whatever his name is, forgot to make any social media posts very upset, very infuriated about an American being killed by an illegal immigrant who shouldn't have been here. But he has all sorts of posts about Kilmar Armando Garcia, the poor Maryland man who only beat his wife a couple times. He only was in MS-13, ish, a little bit. Gosh, you Americans and your high standards. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because the Trump administration is already saying they are they're not playing around. And so they have already come out and said that they're not going to, if he comes back, if by chance, which he won't, because Bukele's not going to release him. But let's say if by chance this man does return, maybe presents at a port of entry, maybe he tries to get back in through a port of entry, he would be subject to detention by DHS. In that case, DHS would take him into custody in the United States and either remove him to a third country or terminate his withholding of removal because of his membership in MS-13, a designated foreign terrorist organization, and remove him to El Salvador. So basically, if you come back, we're just going to keep sending you home. And again, no freaking thank you. God, these people, so ungracious. So I want to take a quick break here, and then I want to get into some of this with the panel. How far does this go? Where is the point that we end here? Because you have the Democrats going all out, trying to protect illegal aliens, terrorists, gang members, you name it, murderers, rapists, from being deported back to their home countries. Or hell, again, I don't even care where they go after they are gone from our country. I don't care if you catapult them over the border and they land in a ocean. I don't care. As long as they're not here and they aren't able to return. Is that too far, Stephen?
I mean, you've already pushed for the catapult thing.
I want the catapult.
You want to pay for it. So.
I want Stephen, you tell me that this is not a brilliant solution. Charge Americans to push the button to catapult them across the border. who cares where they go? Who cares where they land? We're just removing them from the country, and it's a fundraiser.
I mean, it's going to be a big catapult if it's not just Mexico or Canada, I guess.
Listen, we can work out the logistics. I didn't say it was the details were worked out, all right? We can work out the logistics later.
Got it.
I'm just saying it's a good idea.
It's a great idea.
Okay, thank you. I pay him to say that. So I can't wait to see how this plays out. I want to bring in my panel and ask them their thoughts on this. But before we go, make sure that you are subscribed on our YouTube channel. I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. We just reapplied for monetization, which we've done multiple times, and they keep denying us. So
Hold your breath.
you're telling me there's a chance, Stephen. You're telling me there's a chance. No,
Don't hold your breath.
no, they're going to find some reason to deny us. But listen, I'll keep you updated. And as of right now, we are still demonetized, going on 2 years. All I'm asking you to do is something that's for free and it takes no time. Subscribe, hit the like button, and make sure to comment, and it'll help us out in the algorithm. And I mean, like, live it up in the live chat. I know you guys do, but like, go over to the actual video and comment on the actual video as well, because that also helps us. So, all right, we've got to take a quick break. We'll be back with more, but we want to thank our sponsor this segment, Relief Factor. So Relief Factor is there for those of you who you have pain. And I'm not talking about a pain in the ass spouse like maybe me.
What?
That I am to you.
Oh.
Not you, that I am to you.
Say that.
If you took Relief Factor, for me being a pain in your ass, it would not work.
Oh, okay. I've been taking it for that, so
and it's not working, right?
Oh, I'm wondering why.
Don't do that.
I feel great, but I was not really taking it for that.
Like, my body feels wonderful, but
Why still a pain in my ass?
So Relief Factor is there for, of course, actual physical pain that you have in your body, knee pain, neck pain, back pain, whatever the case may be. Try Relief Factor. It's an all-natural, very potent anti-inflammatory. And so it can actually, if inflammation is the cause of your pain in your body, it's going to completely eliminate your pain. It's not just going to mask it. Try the 3-week quick start. 70% of the people who order it go on to keep ordering more. And they've got a guarantee. So you are out nothing. You've got nothing to lose except your pain. Try it. It's $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com. Get that 3-week quick start over at relieffactor.com. All right, welcome to the show. I'm very excited. It's his first time on the program. We have Adam Coleman. He is, of course, the author of The Children We Left Behind, which, can I just, Adam? Oh, yeah. I always put it up and they're like, Steven's like, I have a picture of it that I'm already showing. You don't have to lift up the book. But it's you.
Yep.
And you're so cute. What is this, Boy Scouts?
Yeah, I think I was the Weeblos in that picture. But I was in Boy Scouts from Cub Scout all the way to Boy Scouts.
It's a very cute picture. And so this is how Western culture rationalizes family separation and ignores the pain of child neglect. And I want you to talk about this book for a second before we get into our topics, but I want to also welcome to join us in the conversation, doing so, Jason Buttrill, chief researcher of the Glenn Beck program, who lost his sleeves. He lost his sleeves in a very terrible accident, and he doesn't like to talk about it.
You give the public what they want to see.
Jason's like, I'm going for ratings.
Okay?
I'm going for ratings. You're welcome, Sarah. So Adam, tell us a little bit more about the book and why you wanted to write it.
Sure. Well, the general thesis of the book is that the biggest social issues that we talk about, homelessness, drug addiction, sexual immorality, a lot of it stems from dysfunctional childhood. When people talk about San Francisco, the drug addicts who are on the street, but they usually say it's a homeless issue. Well, actually, it's a drug issue. And most drug addicts have been taking drugs usually when they're starting in their teenage years. And so the question is, why is a teenager taking drugs in the first place? Mm-hmm. And it's not because they want to be rebellious. It's because they're coping with something. So what are they coping with? So you start digging more and more, and you find out that these kids are growing up in dysfunctional homes. They're growing up around people who are unstable. They're being neglected, physically abused, in many cases, sexually abused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And do you lean in on your own personal experience in this book?
Yes. Thankfully, no addiction issues on my part. Right. But
you guys should have seen him behind the scenes before we started. He was, woo!
No, I talk a lot about growing up without my father, how it impacted me. So the cases I was saying before, those are the extreme cases.
Sure.
But most people are dealing with stuff that's more benign, but it still affects them in a great manner. So for me, my issue was low self-esteem, depression. At the age of 8, I was admitted into a mental hospital because of suicidal ideation. You know, my mother actually reminded me that I told her that at that age, if she loved me, she'd help me die. And it's yeah.
Wow.
And this is after being homeless, moving a lot, not seeing my father. And even when I was admitted, I didn't see my father. And I was in there for 3 months. So, you know, that particular moment changed me forever. You know, I became more withdrawn, quieter, but the issues that I faced didn't go away.
Yeah.
And so suicidal ideation stuck with me much into my mid-20s. So it's something that, you know, I'm not the only one who struggled with this, and especially like the low self-esteem and things of that nature. On top of that, having a son at the age of 21, figuring out how do I raise a boy to become a man when I wasn't a man myself? How do I become a good father? You know, having to struggle throughout all of that, all because I didn't have a father in my life to demonstrate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Where can people find the book?
Amazon, I think you can purchase it on wrongspeak.net, but anywhere, their favorite book retailer.
Anywhere books are sold.
Anywhere books are sold.
Great. If we have time later on the show, I want to get back into that conversation as well, because I think it's an important one to have. So make sure that you go wherever books are sold and pick up a copy of The Children We Left Behind by Adam. I want to pick y'all's brain about something that I was just talking about, which is, of course, this wild, like, Democrat circle jerk over illegal gang members. It's the weirdest thing. And so you had the Maryland senator going over there and being like, I'm going to request a meeting with the president and with the detainee. And then he was like, oh, actually, they didn't let me in because I didn't make prior arrangements. Like, no, duh. So you had that happening on the side. And
They
then
didn't let him get a phone call, I don't think.
no, they didn't. No, they didn't. They're like, sir, this is a supermax in El Salvador. That's not how this works. That is not how this works. And then you had his wife giving her statement, her tearful statement over her alleged wife beater husband, we found out. But she's like, Kilmar, if you can hear me, honey, I don't think that they have cable in the supermax. I don't think he's watching your video right now. I don't think he has an iPhone. And I don't think he's going to see it. But you also had this activist judge, Boasberg, who said that he found cause to hold Trump officials in criminal contempt for not turning around the planes carrying these illegal deportees. And so he says that they can clear this contempt by returning illegal gang members to the United States, according to Nick Sorter. This was a 46-page opinion that the administration had shown a willful disregard for his instructions, barring officials from sending those planes to El Salvador in the first place. But by the time he reached that decision, the plane was already in international airspace. So to the Trump administration's point, they were like, well, you don't have jurisdiction. You, Judge Boasberg, from whatever the hell circuit you're on, don't have authority for the airspace that they're in. So we can't really turn the plane around. And so he is saying now that now we're considering criminal contempt because the Trump administration is not working diligently enough to bring back an illegal MS-13 gang member. What the hell world are we living in?
Tracking this case has been so hard to even understand because, I don't know, first off, they keep calling him the Maryland man who was wrongfully deported.
Excuse me? Maryland father?
The Maryland concerned father. Which, by the way, it's his wife or his girlfriend or whatever. She probably don't care because does she still have a restraining order against the guy?
Right. Yeah.
Even if he comes back, he probably is not allowed to come within 100 feet of her or something like that.
But she sure has raked it in and Give, Send, Go donations.
I don't want to allege that there's anything else going on as far as any kind of, why don't you do this for us and we'll put your face, who knows? But it's so bizarre. I cannot imagine. It's an El Salvadoran gang member. We can't deport a non-citizen to his home country. And
That's a free trip back home.
yeah, I mean, yeah, right. And that's one part of it. But then also, I guess his asylum claim hinges on his statement that the rival gang in El Salvador might retaliate to him because he's in MS-13.
I didn't see that.
That's where the asylum claim comes from. So I'm like, wait a minute. He's saying that a rival gang is going to get him when he comes back. That in itself kind of says, well, maybe we should get rid of this guy. I don't know. It's so bizarre. You can't even track it because it makes no sense. Besides the fact that the Democrats are making this one of their big issues. You know, we're going to defend this and send a senator down there. Continue with that. That's great optics. Just continue with that.
Yeah.
You didn't lose historically in the last election because of things like this.
No.
That's not the issues.
No.
Keep doing you.
Please, go, Cory Booker, please get on a plane and go show up in El Salvador because, oh man, that's going to be too intimidating. They're not going to know what to do with themselves if Cory Booker and his crazy eyes shows up.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen a sitting senator put in so much effort for someone who's not even a citizen of this country. And to me, you know, as someone who, just like all of us, watched how Democrats did absolutely nothing to return people to business, return businesses into full function, unless they were big box companies.
Right.
That's a different story. They didn't care about the American citizen, what they're experiencing economically. They didn't care about very common sense things. They didn't care about the border flooding through. They gaslighted the American public. But they'll get on a plane unannounced and show up in a foreign country demanding something as if that's to the benefit of the American public. And to me, that's the pure insult. And so what I look at is people's effort. And your effort is all about the show. Cory Booker standing up for I don't know how many hours for the show with his effort to stand there and grandstand, accomplishing absolutely nothing for the American public other than just to show that he's alive. And so, yeah, it makes absolutely no sense. You just said it. It's a wild optic to see them go and simp for an MS-13 gang member.
What's crazy is I think because of the Trump administration strategy of just I'm surprised they haven't labeled it shock and awe, but it's literally something like we've talked about this before. It's literally something every day that the left is having to react to, where before, like in Trump's first administration, for his first term, it would be something big. They wouldn't do anything else for a while. They'd let the left attack him on it for like a couple, 2-3 months. They would move on to something else, give him time to prepare lawsuits, all this stuff. Now it's like, here's 5 things that you're going to have to try and sue me on or counter or whatever, or just react to on Monday. Tuesday, we're going to have about 30 more things. But I mean, it's gotten so bad that they don't know how to react that they're sending one of their own senators to defend a gang member in El Salvador. Well, I mean, what?
The Democrats have no identity. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. Trump is a throwback Democrat.
Yeah.
I know, exactly.
Right. Well, I think like their identity is Donald Trump bad. Right. Orange man bad. Whatever Donald Trump does, we're going to fight against it. We're going to do the opposite is actually their identity.
What's crazy,
which is not an identity, but I mean, but to your point, it's like that is just their strategy. Whatever he does, we're going to fight against and do the opposite, even if it's helpful for the country.
But that's you made a great point. And if the left did, if they ditched the crazy and just put random person that talks exactly how and spoke to people like Bill Clinton did. Right. With the same principles, blue collar workers, everything, they would be a very, very dangerous opponent in the next election. Extremely dangerous. Like we'd have to be very measured, very worried, and try to figure out like what our game plan was. But they're not doing that. That's all they have to do. No. But instead, people like AOC and Bernie Sanders are leading the party at Coachella. For crying out loud. That was hilarious.
It was so funny. And then you have Elizabeth Warren, who is shrieking about how big pharma might not be able to make medicines because they might be sued for their products harming people. And it's like, wait, what? You're for the big crony capitalism. I see. You're for the big corporations. I see. I remember a time when you claimed that you were fighting against them and they were really bad. And now you're taking one of the biggest money makers in the entire country, that whole industry. And you're like, but what if they actually get held accountable for their products?
That issue specifically is turning Hollywood in like historic numbers over towards now the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll never admit that they like Trump.
Right.
They'll admit they like RFK Jr. to a certain extent, but I mean, that's turning them in that direction. So please, continue.
Right.
Keep going.
Exactly. Okay, let's do this then. Let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, I want to get more into RFK Jr., who had a very interesting presser earlier today. First, I want to
Segue
remind you
for
guys. Yeah, you really did. We've worked together so long. He doesn't even he just does it automatically and doesn't even realize it. I want to remind you guys though about our new magazine, Frontier. Frontier it's this beautiful. I mean, the picture really doesn't do it justice. It's this really beautiful, heavy duty magazine that comes with our new Blaze Unlimited subscription. And so, with this Blaze Unlimited subscription that you guys can go ahead and upgrade to, you're not just going to get the magazine, you're going to get early access to exclusive events, VIP opportunities, dedicated customer support, and VIP treatment. They've got exclusive members only content, just a really premium experience for those who are just looking for more ways to intermingle with all of us. So go to blazeunlimited.com/Sarah right now. Lock in your subscription before we sell out again. It is blazeunlimited.com/Sarah. So RFK Jr. gave this update. There was a newly released study that came out that showed the recent skyrocketing autism rates in America. And every time they do these studies, it is increase on increase on increase. And I want to play some of his autism rate update today in his press conference. Watch.
I'm going to go over some of the key numbers from the ADDM report. Overall, the autism is increasing in prevalence at an alarming rate. The study tests 8-year-olds who were born in 2014. And by the way, these studies are 2 years later than they should be. And one of the things that we're going to do as we move this function to the Administration for a Healthy America, to the Chronic Disease Division, the new Chronic Disease Division, is we are going to have updated real-time data so that people can look at this, so Americans can understand what is happening with chronic disease in this country in real time. The ASD prevalence rate in 8-year-olds is now 1 in 31. Shocking. There's an extreme risk for boys. Overall, the risk for boys of getting an autism diagnosis in this country is now 1 in 20. And as high in California, which has the best data collection. So it probably also reflects the national trend, 1 in 12.5 boys. The prevalence 2 years ago was 1 in 36. Since the first ADDM report in 1990, which was 1992 births, autism has increased by a factor of 4.8. That's 480%, I believe. The first ADDM survey was 22 years ago when prevalence was 1 in 150 children. In all the core states, the trend is consistently upward, and most cases now are severe. So about 25% of the kids who are diagnosed with autism are nonverbal, non-toilet trained, and have other stereotypical features, head banging, tactile and light sensitivities, stimming, toe walking, etc.
I mean, this is a crisis of epic proportions that no one within the government and certainly HHS has been willing to actually look at. And now you have RFK giving this update. I would just like to, I'm just going to throw this out here, okay? I'm not here to determine what the cause is, and I appreciate that they are looking at a lot of different things. He said that they're looking at environmental toxins. It could be something like mold, pesticides, food chemicals, medicines, potentially ultrasound scans. I mean, they are trying to look at everything. I would just like to point out, as he mentioned, it's 1 in 20 boys nationwide, but 1 in 12.5 in boys in California. And I would just like to point out that California is one of the, if not the strictest vaccination state in the country. They offer 0 exemptions for children going through schools who, for personal beliefs, for religion, and even their medical exemptions, which is the only one that they offer, are very, very, very strict. And all of the doctors in California are scared to give them a medical exemption because they feel like if they do, they're going to be investigated and have their licenses revoked. So I'm not saying I know the cause, but I just do think that it's an important point when you talk about this. Why is California so much higher? I don't know, but maybe we should look at whether or not there's a correlation there. Oh, wait, the science is settled. We don't know what the cause is, but we definitely know it's not that. Move on. I'm not so sure. Am I crazy? He would have thought I was crazy probably 5 years ago. Do you think I'm crazy now?
No, not now. I don't want to give you more credit than I need to during this segment. But,
no, you should give me a lot of credit. Go ahead. Come on. Keep going. I'll take it.
I will say that I did not think this way before we did a couple of specials, one on COVID and another one on food. And I was just blown away by how the actual system works. Now, the system works. The people that would push back on this, which now seems utterly ridiculous to me, but the people that would push back on this, they would say, look, this is science. Like this is the studies now just are better at detecting autism. So they're finding more cases. I'm sorry, but 480% increase? No.
Exactly.
That's
his point.
That is insane.
Yeah.
So either science has changed from like the Middle Ages all the way up until now in a span of a couple decades, or we need to have some changes. At least do a full stop on what is actually happening. Mm-hmm. That's how serious this sounds. If you look at other statistics, if you look at birth rates, if you look at life expectancy, and you just compare like the United States to other countries that we consider are less developed than we are, like we're so much mightier and more intelligent than some of these other countries, but they're living to 90 years old and going up, and we're going down to scary levels. Something's happening, and this is not a partisan thing, right? Like everyone should support this. Right. If you're not right now standing on a soapbox across the political spectrum and saying, "Oh my God, these numbers," we have got to take a step back. Whether that's halting, the new stuff we're approving, whether that's in the Food and Drug Administration or all the different foods, everything. If you're not saying just stop everything and let's figure out what's happening, that's just pure evil in my mind. Pure evil.
Yeah. I will say this. A lot of Americans don't leave the country, but when you do leave the country and you eat food in other places, you realize our food is trash, right? There's something in our food.
It's actual poison.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. For example, I have lactose issues, right? But I can go to another country and take in most cheeses, most milks, and not have any sort of problem. Same thing with breads, things of that nature. Really? Here, my stomach is sensitive as all hell. I've been to Austria. I've bounced all over Europe into like 11, 12 countries throughout Europe, including Turkey. I eat their food, no problem. No problem whatsoever.
That's not the first time I've heard a mutual friend of ours, who I don't know if she wants her name shared, so I'll tell you off air, but they went to Europe. And she cannot have gluten here, or she can't have bread. She said, like, I ate my weight in bread. It had gluten, it had all, and I was completely fine. In fact, she lost weight when she was there, and they were just stuffing their faces the entire time in Italy, because all of their foods are just like down to the basic components of the grain are just completely different. Right. Completely different.
And the EU is actually very strict when it comes to food production and chemicals and was it GMOs put into
and artificial dyes.
Artificial dyes. Yeah, they're very strict on that.
So I know we've said this before, but for those that haven't heard it, this is what completely changed my mind on just the food stuff. Because normally I was like, I want to eat my Flamin' Hot Cheetos, bro. Sure. Like don't take those away. But I don't know how the system works over in Europe. But here, if I'm at a company that makes some kind of Cheetos, and I want it to look and taste and have that certain crunch, but I have to put on all these chemicals, I go to the FDA and I say, look, I want it to look this way. The FDA says, no problem. Produce it. We're not going to do the study. You have to commission your own study. So it's on the people that want to sell the product. It's on them to do the science. Do you think after they've wasted over who knows how many millions or billions of dollars getting ready to market this and push it out and make it, that they're going to have anything but glowing results from this study?
Of course not.
So then it doesn't matter. So then they hand it to the FDA and the FDA goes, cool, bro. That's great. Thanks for doing our work for us. Oh, but now for every batch of those Cheetos that you make, you have to pay us a fee per batch for us to put our signature and our little stamp of approval on it. So it's a huge bribe to the government, to the regulators to put that out. Does that not sound like the biggest, croniest piece of bullshit you've ever heard in your life?
I know.
That's insane.
I know. That's what I've been trying to tell everybody.
And then 480% increase in autism. And you wonder why.
You know, what really drives me bonkers too is, and I'm saying like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a combination of certain environmental factors. Sure. You know, it could be like someone who was already prone to some sort of vaccine damage, and then the food, and then the mold or whatever. I'm not saying I have the answers, but I'm just saying it doesn't seem very science-y to me that, like, let's say people were like, well, the earth is, we definitely know the earth is not flat, okay? But we can't tell you what it is. Well, then how do you know it's not flat? I'm not saying the earth is flat, but I'm saying, like,
She's
if
totally
you
saying
can't, I'm not, but you can't say, well, we don't know what it is. We don't know what the cause is. We don't know what this factor is, but we definitely know it's not that. How do you know if you don't know what the cause is? You know what I mean? Like you can't discount anything just because you had a study that cooked the books, 20 years ago, and you're like, well, we had that one study. Well, what if the one study was, as Jason is talking about, and you had these big pharmaceutical companies studying themselves, and you had a placebo, which wasn't a true placebo, it was just another vaccine, and maybe if we don't know the cause, maybe we should just stop saying, but we definitely know it's not that one thing.
Well, actually, it's funny you say that, because I think the biggest problem is the denial that there is a problem. Right. So you can't change what you don't acknowledge. Yep. And for the longest time, they were saying there's actually nothing abnormal. I think you were saying before, oh, we just get better at testing. And so we just detect autism better now, right? So that's a denial that there's a difference, that there is a problem. And so now we're to the point where we finally have someone within the federal government that says there is a problem and I'm looking into it. Mm-hmm. So I would not be shocked, like you said, that maybe vaccines are part of it, maybe food is part of it, that the entire system is corrupt. And we do know that many of these big studies are funded by the very corporations who benefit from the studies.
Right.
Yep, exactly right. So thank God we've got RFK, who is about the only one that you can trust to look into it. So we'll keep an eye on that. We got to take another quick break. We'll be right back. I want to get back to your book before we go, Adam. So obviously this is your personal experience. We talk a lot on this show about culturally, there is a fatherlessness problem generally, right? But there is this, like, specific to the minority community. It's even more so. And I just wonder if why is that and how do we fix it? Because I try to talk about it because I care. Mm-hmm. And I get told I'm not allowed to speak about issues that don't concern me. I'm not allowed to speak on the Black community. And I'm like, I see this as a societal issue that we all need to talk about and figure out how to fix because it's affecting the next generation, period.
Right. Well, I do think that the Black fatherlessness issue is the canary in the coal mine for Americans. Yeah. So the issue is very prominent amongst Black Americans. More so today is because it's culturally normal. So now people defend it because it's familiar. Yeah. I use my wife as an example. She grew up in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and there was only one family in her neighborhood that had both parents in the home, and they're from the Caribbean. So it was normal. As a matter of fact, until we got together and we really started talking about these things, she never really thought about how that image was something that was normal. It was culturally normal for them. So I do think that we're dealing with a cultural aspect of being normal, that the father is optional.
Yeah.
He's not a necessity. Why? Because, well, my mother grew up and I turned out fine.
Right.
That it's that kind of mentality. But they ignore the part that this isn't optimal. Right? Just because you survive, that doesn't mean that you're thriving. So I do think that we're dealing with a cultural issue, but on the other end, you know, the percentage is high because the population is small. But a lot of white Americans are dealing with much of the same issue.
Yeah.
And so the number percentage-wise doesn't seem all that big in comparison, but in totality, you know, most of the people who reach out to me who share my story don't look like me. And so I do think that while it is true, there is a disproportionate amount of Black Americans growing up in single-parent homes, I do think that narrative overshadows all of the other kids, including white children, who are dealing with the same issue.
Yeah. I mean, I know we only have a couple minutes left, and I want you to talk, so I won't go on too long, but I do know people very close to me in my family who, you know, they had a very, very hard childhood. You're talking about neglect and abuse and all of these things. And it's like you're faced with two choices when you're in that position. You either become that or you decide to break the mold and do something different. And I know what you decided.
Yeah. I decided to not be my father.
Yeah.
That was what I told myself, holding my son for the first time. I was going to do everything possible to not be my father, which is a very low bar because he wasn't there at all, really. But I spent all of my effort to become the father that I thought I would have wanted if I was a kid. And watching my son grow up, I realized he's a lot like me. And so I was treating him accordingly as far as how I discipline him, how I communicate with him. And now he's 19 years old. He's, I would say he's probably more right-leaning,
Yeah.
but on his own free will. But he's very common sense, very logical. People love being around him, and he works really hard. So I'm incredibly proud of him.
Yeah. I always think like what would you do if your kids grew up and they were like, actually, I'm a liberal? That would be devastating. When I mean, I'm sorry. I love this, and everyone go get this book, "The Children We Left Behind" by Adam Coleman. I know we said this earlier, but Amazon, wherever your favorite places to get books, make sure to pick it up. But really, before we go, what would you do? Like, I'd be like, do you have to come back for Christmas? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding. What would you do, Jason? What if they were still living in your house?
I mean, if your kids go to public school, I think every parent has had that, that moment.
Kids don't go to public school.
Like my kid, so my kids did go to public school, and it was a constant fight.
Yeah.
It really was. Like it's crazy. Like my kids did not know the difference between white, black, brown, anything. They did not see race at all until they got into public school. When they got, and I'm sure it's like the same with school, but like all of a sudden, just the political nature of it and how they intentionally separate and divide us all out. It came through right there. Gotta stick to your guns, especially when your kids go to school.
Well, my kid is homeschooled, and we were talking about no taxation without representation today. So I think we're looking pretty good.
There you go.
Thank you guys for being here.